this episode, we try our hand at landscaping for the very first time. We're planting 23 Thuja pine trees along our driveway to add even more privacy and help soften the little bit of road noise. The problem is we still didn't have running water on the property yet, so you'll see how we hauled water in, what worked, and the mistakes we made along the way. We're Alicia and Shad. Our story started in a tiny room in Florida when we were just two young kids trying to build something of our own. We created our business, Live Infinitely, and spent 10 years pouring everything into it. Late nights, long days, and more trial and error than we can ever count. Eventually, that work paid off, and we were able to sell the business. After that, we traveled the country searching for a place that felt like home. And then we found it, our 15 acres filled with tall, beautiful, longleaf pines. Now we're building our life on this land the same way we always have, starting from scratch and building from the ground up. As you know, one of the biggest reasons we chose this land was because of the longleaf pines. I wanted year-round green, something that still felt alive even in the colder months. But at the entrance of our driveway, it is mostly deciduous trees, so every winter it all just opens up, and suddenly you can see everything, the road, the house, all of it. So we decided it was time to plant a little bit more privacy. And beyond that, just having more evergreens out front is going to keep the driveway looking green and alive throughout the year. Before we could plant anything, we had to prepare the ground. The grading crew that we had do the driveway had already shaped the driveway and everything, but the edges were full of weeds, sticks, and leftover debris. So Shad and I spent a weekend raking everything out and smoothing out the soil, evening out the low and high spots and just making the grade really nice and smooth for when we plant the trees. After the driveway was prepped, we decided to add some grass seed along the entrance. We don't plan to landscape every inch of the driveway, so we thought adding some grass would help soften things up and make the whole entry feel more welcoming. Later on, though, we'd find out that the first round of seed didn't stand a chance. We laid it in the middle of summer during the hottest weeks of the year, and we still didn't even have any running water on the property. So it never grew. A little money wasted, but definitely a lesson learned. Once the seed was down, we added a layer of straw to help protect it and keep some moisture in. Doing all the things you're supposed to do, even though the summer heat would have other plans. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, I got stung by a bee right on the forearm. That's when I learned I'm apparently allergic because the swelling went from my wrist all the way down to my elbow. Gotta get evidence. Don't worry though, I slapped some onions on it and it went down in no time. Next, it was time to start digging the holes for the trees.
Good. You want to help me take it down?
Sure. The ground here is pretty compact, so it took both of us holding on to either side of the auger to get it to bite into the soil. This section of the driveway had a lot of backfill from the initial grading and from when the electrical was put in. So the soil here was extra compact and had a lot of different roots and debris. We kept hitting the roots and the auger would grab them and jam up over and over. 1 or 2 holes wouldn't have been a big deal, but doing this 23 times, definitely a workout. Still, we were hoping the auger would save us from having to hand dig every single hole later.
Put the pickup into drive, chase the dawn, burn the light, let's go. Take the change from our savings jar, grab the Gibson, ditch the phone, let's roll. Maybe where we're going there are no exit signs. Even if the road is all we know, I'll be home to you, home to you.
Well, our work's done here for that.
You done good, kid. These will look so pretty. Now that the land was prepped and the holes were started, it was time to get the trees in. We had all 23 of them delivered to our business's warehouse. Next, we recruited my aunt to help us load up the trees and bring them out to the property. Luckily, she also had a truck because we ran out of space in Shad's pretty quickly. It's kind of crazy how heavy these trees actually were. It was definitely a two-person job. The reason we chose the Thuja evergreen is because they're one of the best options for creating a natural privacy wall. They grow quickly, stay dense and green year-round, and they're great for reducing road noise. They also have this really pretty shape that adds so much to a long driveway like ours. Once the trees were on site, we settled into a good rhythm. I unloaded all the trees from the trucks, opened each box and staged them along the driveway. At the same time, Shad and my aunt worked together to widen up the holes. The auger gave us a good start, but once we saw how big the root balls were, every hole needed to be opened up by hand. To check our hole size, we used the tree buckets as a guide. If the bucket didn't sit comfortably over the hole, we knew we needed to keep digging. And yes, all of this is as hot as it looks. The summer heat was fully settling in. Hand digging 23 holes wider was definitely a lot of work for Shad and my aunt, so while they kept widening each one, I got started planting the trees. Once I finished unloading them from the truck, it was time to start dropping them into place. And now comes the time-lapse worthy part, planting all 23 trees. We lined them up in a staggered pattern so they'd grow together and form a nice privacy wall, but still look a little more natural and less like a straight military lineup. This definitely took hours, and somewhere in the middle of it, I learned I'm allergic to yet another thing. By the end of the night, my arms were covered in hives from hugging all of the Thuja branches. I've gone my entire life without allergies, and suddenly planting trees is revealing all kinds of surprises. And after all the digging, lifting, sweating, and a few unexpected allergy discoveries, our cute little baby Thujas are here all tucked into the ground and lined up along the driveway. Now this is where things get interesting. We didn't have running water on the property yet, so our brilliant idea was to buy 5 Lowe's buckets, fill them up every day, and then pour them into a watering can to feed each tree. We did this for several weeks, and it took forever. It also became pretty clear that the trees weren't getting nearly enough water. A few of them started turning a little brown, which was our first sign that our system needed some serious upgrading. We also started noticing that the top layer of soil had a lot of clay, and with so little water to work with, it just wasn't absorbing the way we hoped. So we went back down the line, tree by tree, pulling back the clay layer until we reached the original potted soil. It was our way of opening things up and giving whatever water we could provide a real chance to reach the roots. Even after all of that work, the trees were still looking rough, as you can see here. And remember all that grass we tried planting? Yeah, nothing really happening there either. About a month in from planting the grass and the trees, and it was clear that we were going to need a new strategy. But I guess that's what's going to happen when you try to plant things in the middle of the summer without any running water on your property. So leave it to Shad. He came through with a brilliant fix, like he always does. He ordered a big water bladder from Amazon and rigged it up with a hose so we could finally bring in real amounts of water each day, which made a huge difference. We also realized we really needed mulch. It helps soak up the water and slowly release it back to the roots. Exactly what our little trees needed. But before we could add any, we had to clean up each tree again and pull back the dirt that had piled up over the potting soil. This next shot is a look at the bladder setup that Shad put together. It honestly made life so much easier compared to all the bucket refilling we were doing before. Now we could bring in a large amount of water all at once and use the natural slope of the driveway to let gravity feed each tree. With mulch down on each tree and a watering system that could finally give them a real drink, this felt like a major win. For the first time, it actually felt like we weren't going to kill all 23 trees. This ended up being our watering setup for the next several weeks, and honestly, I think it's the reason these trees are still alive today. It gave us just enough consistency to keep them going through the heat while their roots got established. Of course, even with the upgrade, watering all 23 trees still took a ton of time. We came out here every single day, and it became my job while Shad worked his way through the woods with the mulcher. Okay, after weeks of fighting with our trees and trying to get them to grow, we finally got water. Actually, let me show you here real quick. So now we can water our trees with the spigot instead of having to carry in water anymore. Oh, such a pain in the butt. But here, I'm going to show you the spigot. There we go. Finally got a spigot put in. We've got a big, long hose, actually multiple hoses, so that it goes all the way down the driveway to the trees and to this grass area that we're planting as well. So this makes our life so much easier than having to carry in all that water like we were doing. So here's our super long hose. It's coming in right there. After months of hauling water to the property, you have no idea how magical it feels to just turn on a hose and actually soak everything. Unlimited water felt like winning the lottery at this point. We ended up reseeding the grass a few times, but honestly, the biggest victory was that the trees survived. Planting 23 of them at once was enough, but doing it again would have been a nightmare. A few months later, here's how they look now. All of them made it, and they're bursting with new growth. We seriously can't wait to see how they look fully grown.